Welcome back to iHeartRadio. So bad it's good. Today, you guys, I have somebody that I'm so excited to talk to. I've never talked to before, so hopefully it's not a complete train wreck on my part. But I've been so depressed in this last year, and I'll do these things where I'll go to Target and I'll just look at like things that I would like to buy, and it's always like the record, like the vinyl selection, even though I'm not, it just makes me feel good. And then the book section, and there was a book that I just the title just made me smile. I don't know why, but the title of the book is "Well, This Is Exhausting," and it's essays by our next guest. Now, I bought this book and I didn't crack it just because owning a book makes you feel good right then and there. But then I was like, you know what? This book is just sitting there laughing at me in my face. And I've been making so many trips to Arizona to be with my family. So I got the audio book as well. And I just fell in love with this book so much. The drives just went so quick. And I can't speak enough about this book. I just thought, and by the way, I'm not the primary audience for this book. I think this speaks to so many females and so much of my audience. That's why I would love for you guys to check this out. But she is hysterical. The book is heartwarming, funny. It goes in, like, there are things that I so identified with, even as a dude. But also her love of pop culture shines throughout. There was multiple references, I believe, to The Bachelor, to pop culture. I mean, just these little things. But on top of that, our next guest is also a sex and relationship advice. She has columns for Bustle, GQ, Bylines and Allure, Refinery 29, The Cut, The Guardian. And then also, if you don't, you probably already follow her on Twitter. It's at one follower, no dad. And immediately when I opened up, I was blown away because the first thing I saw was a T-shirt that you can buy, and it says "Silver Springs deserve to be on Rumors," and that just was like, holy shit! So, Sophia Benoit, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. That's probably the most generous intro I've ever gotten. I can't wait to record it and play it to other people and tell them to do that exact same thing. That was so lovely. Yeah, thank you so much.
That's as good as it's going to get for this, Sophia. So I hope you got what you needed out of
this. Wonderful. It's beyond flattering, so thank you.
So, I mean, like, the book came out, I think, over a year ago, but people are still finding it. I mean, it's just a massive undertaking to write a book at all. I mean, how did that even process begin to even think that, like, I should put all of my thoughts in my life down on paper and share my stories?
Yeah. So, well, one, if anyone has followed me on Twitter, they probably know that my problem is not actually sharing thoughts. Like, I overshare every thought that comes in my brain because I have such ADHD. So that part wasn't as much the issue. I love books. I try to read 50 books a year every year. I've been doing that for the past like 5 or 6 years, just because I love books and I want a number to be like, this is the minimum, kind of keep it going. So I've always loved reading. And so it came naturally to want to write a book, but it didn't come as quickly to know what I wanted to write about. And I had seen so many female comedians, especially, have these fantastically funny books of essays that I loved. When I was a teenager, I remember loving some of Chelsea Handler's essays. And of course, Nora Ephron is like the goddess of hilarious essays. And, you know, Issa Rae had a book, and Phoebe Robertson had a book. And so there were just all these hilarious books of essays. And not even always by famous comedians, Sloane Crosby. So I always wanted to write that. And I set out to write it when I was probably 23, which is an incredibly dumb and arrogant thing to do as a 23-year-old. But most things you do when you're 23 are dumb and arrogant. So, you know, that's what happens. But I started, and I kept getting stuck because I didn't have crazy experiences in my life. Like, I am at the end, I'm someone who reads 50 books a year. Like, am I going to find the time to like try cocaine or, you know, do something nuts? So I feel like I always just I was like a good kid, and I did everything quote unquote correctly. And I like didn't break the rules and didn't get grounded and didn't try not to disappoint my parents. And so I was like grasping for what to write in a book. And it finally occurred to me that I could write that story and be like, what if you write a story about kind of trying really hard to be good, and then where it gets you. So that was kind of the seed for the book. And it took many years to actually get it to the point where it was a good and legible book with the help of a ton of other people. But that was kind of a long answer for how I got to writing a book of essays.
No, I mean, it was amazing. And also I love the the part of it too is that discovering that you have a voice when you grow up. Like you're from Missouri, right? Like, or that's
Yes.
where you like finding that you have a voice, but also a sense of humor that your friends didn't have. Like something that actually, like, it's kind of like this superpower in a way, and then learning to harness that. Of like, other people don't have your point of view. I mean, at what age did you discover that your point of view could be differently, or you had a different way of communicating?
I think this is going to be such a silly answer, but I realized one thing in hindsight when I just started doing stand-up comedy in college when I left, and it had been something that I'd kind of thought about before leaving St. Louis, but I never really thought I could do it. Or I was the kind of person, and still am, where I get very overwhelmed easily by a situation where I don't know all the steps of how to do the thing. Like, I'm not going to try something if I don't know A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to Z. So it seemed insurmountable as a high schooler in St. Louis. So I just kind of ignored it and waited for college. But when I started doing stand-up, I remembered so clearly all of a sudden, like a flash, that when I was a 4 or 5-year-old at a preschool or pre-K and kindergarten situation, and then going into being a kindergartner there, I had known all these kids my whole childhood at this point. And it was a small school. We all knew each other. And I used to go and sit on the tire swing, and I would do what essentially were stand-up sets, but it was me doing like rants. And one of the ones that I did all the time was like, how can we be the kindergartners now? Because like the kindergartners before us seem so old, and now we're the kindergartners, which is a very dumb rant. But I remember that the kids used to ask me to go, and they would call it like, will you go shout about something, is what it was, even though I wasn't even loud at that time in my life. I mean, I am now, but I remembered that like this, like a lightning bolt of memory came, and I was like, maybe that's where some of this started, where you just were yelling about things on the tire swing to children.
Will you go shout about something is a perfect second book title. That's amazing. I mean, but you couldn't have imagined growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, to be here today. Like I always think, like Kansas, like I used to see on Entertainment Tonight the Hollywood sign, and it seemed like some kind of foreign, like Paris or something, and then it shocked me that it was actually there, and that we can live here.
Yeah, and also my family is very much not involved in, some people, they're a writer, and you're like, my mom's an artist, and my dad does music or whatever. My parents are like, both went to law, or started going to law school, or went to law school and got business degrees. And like, my dad owned a hockey equipment company when I was growing up, and I worked in a hockey warehouse. So it wasn't like not that the people in my life aren't like very creative, they are, but also my family is incredibly academically focused. So half of my family like went to the East Coast and did the like Ivy League or just under Ivy League educations. And then the like one of my cousins literally went to Princeton for quantum physics. So like my family had this like dreamy version of me that was going to be more academic, I think, and less like writing bad words online. So I feel like maybe I met somewhere in the middle of like Princeton and hockey warehouse is like somewhere in between those two. I settled.
Which, by you just reminded me, I forgot one of your first, one of your exes, one of your first boyfriends was at the hockey shop. Your dad, yes, that was a huge part of the book. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
sorry.
I was a nepotism baby in that I worked at my dad's hockey warehouse, and he would come in every day.
Stop bragging, jeez.
I know. He would come in and threaten to fire me constantly because he genuinely was mortified by the idea of nepotism. So he was like, if she does anything wrong, tell me, I will fire her so fast.
People work their lives to get in this hockey place, and you're just getting a hand in it too.
Yeah, exactly.
We were. I was just thinking about that Silver Springs shirt, which I talk about the song Silver Springs, you guys, a lot on this show because I was watching recently after Christine McVie died the live version of Silver Springs that they did when they reunited it was called The Dance on VH1. The kids, there used to be a thing called VH1, and you can see like the passion in Stevie Nicks' eyes towards Lindsey Buckingham and all of the stories like. And this song is so amazing, and it actually wasn't on the Rumors album, and it's one of their classics.
It is a classic, and I'm so sorry to Christine McVie, who's a beyond good singer and songwriter. I mean, just good isn't even a word that should be used for her. Phenomenal. But I do think "Oh Daddy" could have been cut, and we could have had time on the album for it. I'm so sorry. But,
wow, canceled immediately. Wow, no, you're right though.
I also I'm not, and honestly, the people that I've had angriest online at me in my life are weirdly soccer fans that have like weird mobs online, and then Lindsey Buckingham stans. I've had very, very angry Lindsey Buckingham stans in my mentions before when I've talked about this. So I'm hesitant to say it, but I do think it's better than Go Your Own Way. And I think Go Your Own Way is like just a cheap shot to make somebody sing a song about like, yeah, I'm happy I'm leaving you. Like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Come on,
man. But like, I was thinking like the making of Rumors, if you guys don't know, was just like this like that band was so sordid, all the ins and outs of that relationships. Cause like Lindsey Buckingham, you guys, obviously, you know this, and Stevie Nicks, they came as a pair. They were a couple. They had already been doing like these duo albums, but you know, all of it just got so crazy with the cheating and the ins and outs. But then I was looking at today's pop culture, and nothing as like, to me, that has legs. And there's like a real feeling when you talk about Fleetwood Mac. But then I was thinking about in terms of like, we were talking about like bachelor couples, like this Caitlin Bristow and Jason Tartick, you guys. Camelot has fallen once again. They have announced that they are ending their engagement. And I was just thinking, like, this is what today's generation, we get these kind of relationship breakups. And I would so much rather go back to the Fleetwood Mac kind of like really hot and heavy. There's so like songs are being written about.
I think so two things. One, I also think you don't even think about how spoiled the 70s were with just this glut of disaster bands, because you also had ABBA going through virtually the exact same thing and putting out hit after hit about two couples being together in a band and then divorcing. It's the same thing. It's just like more Euro divorce rather than like UK America divorce vibes. But I just think you just forget that there were these two massive mega bands that were going through multiple split ups and divorces within the band. Beautiful. We need bands to come back. We need big band. We need bands where I want to know all
rock music is gone. Like, I mean, what would even be comparable in the music scene today? And like, I mean, I was just, and this is, I'm not going to even bring that up. I was about to bring up Tory Lanez, but like, I was just like, this is the shit we get. And there's like this real like relationship heavy, you can feel like the tension within the band. Like ABBA is a funny thing because they all have those little, like, they all look like kids together. They all look like they were related to each other. But like Fleetwood Mac, the clothing and all of that stuff was so, sorry, I'm just, it's insane.
I think the closest thing we have right now, which is not close at all, but I think the closest thing that we're all kind of delighting in right now is the Ariana Grande and her little SpongeBob boy. Like
Ethan Slater.
Yes. I have not learned his name, and that's kind of a beautiful place for my head to be. It just is like, I don't need to learn that man's name. It's going to be over soon, and it's going to be insane, even more insane for that family. But like, I relate to his wife so much. When people were like, his wife's calling up all the press, which I don't know if that's true. That might be totally false. But if you,
but good.
That's what I'm saying.
Good if she was calling up the press. Good.
You literally I had a baby for you, and your friend came over and held my baby, and now you're with my friend or your friend. Absolutely not. I'm calling everyone.
And you liked the pic. Ariana Grande liked the pictures. Like, I don't care how many hits you write or how great of a voice you have. That's like, there's a diabolical, and it's not the first. I don't want to paint Ariana. I want to be careful at how I approach that, but this is not news if it comes to Ariana Grande relationships. This is almost normal for Ariana Grande, but anybody else, you think about that lady with a 1-year-old son, I believe, and you know, she was like all happy for her husband because he got a role in the movie Wicked. That's huge for them. And then this happens.
I would burn so much down. I would be not just online. I would be saying so many things about that man that he thought were going to be private until he died. I would be saying the absolute worst insecurities he had. I would be posting them online. I'd be like, this is what he's insecure about. This is his deepest fear. By the way, I would be sharing everything you wouldn't believe. But again, I get it. And I think her calling Ariana Grande not a girl's girl is ultimately one of the most beautiful responses. I thought that was just almost elegant.
Sophia, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you, not a girl's girl?
Okay, so I have a huge thing with multiple friends of mine, but especially with one of my friends about talking about girls. And my parents got divorced when I was young, and I lived most of the days of the week with my mom and my sister in a house that was literally all girls. So I think a lot of my childhood really was outside of the male gaze. And if you've ever met my dad, it's even clearer. He's not like American dad watching football, despite the hockey warehouse situation. You might think my dad is like literally like doctorate in philosophy, like very European, like thinks that hockey is a beautiful and poetic sport or something. Like it's not Mr. Sporty Spice. So I didn't grow up around the male gaze very much. And so inherently, I think I kind of thought more so early on in my life that like what women did was cool and valuable and great. And like, why would we care about what guys are saying if it's a negative thing? Like, okay, that's easy to ignore. And then as I got older, I was around more men and around more women who were around more men. And it became clear that like society's rules were, hey, maybe the male gaze should be prioritized. And that felt jarring to me. I remember being like, what is happening? Wait, why are we listening to boys all of a sudden? This is random. And so I think the kind of idea of what a girl's girl is a person who prioritizes friendships over male opinions, and it's not somebody who's like ignoring men or hating men or not having relationships with men. It's just being like, I am at my core. I have a belief that femininity is good and valuable and not weak and not lesser. And like, whether that's expressed by anyone across the gender spectrum, like I am at my core someone who like loves women, thinks it's cool. Like Taylor Swift, girl's girl. Like she is loudly feminine, proudly feminine. She's not male gazy. And so when you have somebody, and I think that that's like been a kind of a huge theme this summer, especially you've got like the Barbie movie coming out. You have like Gabby Windey, when she came out, speaking of The Bachelor, she like wrote, I'm a girl's girl in reference to something she'd said on the show about being a girl's girl. So like, I think it's like been this big summer of like women supporting women being like, all right, you know, girl's girl moment.
Yeah,
and then for Ariana Grande to be called not a girl's girl, I was like, yes, that's true. That's correct.
Well, and what a bubble she has to live in, like of somebody that is so used to that type of behavior that she, you know, you would only imagine that, she must not have a tight community of females in her life if this is something that is like not even acceptable, but almost commonplace if you look at her past relationships.
Yes. I mean, I genuinely think that if one of my friends did that, it would be very hard for me to continue to be friends with them because I'd be like, okay, well, you just were involved in the end of a family relationship and you don't seem very remorseful about it. The vibes are bad. I don't know.
Like, I feel bad for the smallest things. Could you imagine like the guilt that a normal person would carry if you were like, oh yeah, we were double dating with my ex-husband or her ex-husband, and they were like, we were double dating, I was liking all their photos, and then they have a new baby and we fell in love and I'm still going to pursue that instead of saying, you know what, this isn't right now, let's wait down. I mean, like, that is somebody, and think about that's somebody's worst nightmare on top of even taking gender politics out of it. Somebody's worst nightmare is for a guy or girl to be stolen away from a guy or girl. Like that I live in fear of things like that.
I just think like, I think there's so many like shades of infidelity. And like, as a sex and relationships writer, I talk to people about infidelity a lot and experts about infidelity. And I think there's a lot of infidelity that's recoverable from, like, there's a lot of stuff that's like, you can figure out why it happened and strengthen a relationship, et cetera, et cetera. But when your partner just straight up walks out and is like, found someone better, that is devastating. And I don't think there's like a good spin on it. And I don't think there's like maybe you'll learn. I don't know. Like, it is just a straight up bummer. And like, also that you haven't learned anything from your last relationship if you're already getting in a new one anyway. So it's going to be a disaster zone. And again, now
imagine having to stay away from radio. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the other thing, and I know it's not polite. Like, I'm a weird-looking guy. I know it's not polite to talk about, but he's a very interesting-looking gentleman, and he's obviously really good at singing, in musical theater. But that's another thing is that, like, I'm curious of like how pumped up that he's on Ariana that he is now if he opens up any social media app, people literally go to that denominator of you are the, you look like SpongeBob potentially.
I mean, I think it's audacious. And I think that like leagues are obviously fake in a certain sense of like someone being out of your league. Like there's so much that is not a physical appearance that is involved in attraction, like so much. So I get that. That's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, part of me is like, I don't know, girlfriend, you keep going for weird looking dudes and that are kind of dating someone or maybe still dating someone. So this seems like a whole thing where, again, if I were her friend, I'd be so frustrated right now. I'd be like, I can't even, there's too much to work on. I have to get out of here. Like, I'm just too much of a friend who's like, I always am telling my friends what my opinions are on everything, obviously. And I don't expect them to like take my advice, but I am always like, yeah, that's.
But are you cold calling your friends? Do you cold call your friends? Go, yo, I gotta talk to you about your guy. Like,
I'm lucky in that I have a house that has like a good area for entertaining, and I host people and I cook, so I have people over all the time. So I'm kind of like doing like a spider's web where I invite people in, and then I'm like, you're here, thank you. It's time for me to tell you my unsolicited advice.
Cheating does, obviously cheating has been around, forever, but in pop culture, and I don't think you watch Vanderpump Rules, but we were rocked. The Bravo audience was rocked with a huge cheating scandal where it was like a friend, like this girl was friends with the guy and the girl that were together. And then it turns out this girl was banging the guy. Like it was this huge thing. And it was so real. It actually made you believe in reality shows again because it was so real. And it was so it was like jaw dropping because the audience didn't even see it. Like none of us saw that or could believe it was happening. But then you just think about all of these relationships crumbling and people cheating on this and that and this. And is it like the summer of cheating? Is it the summer of breaking up relationships?
Okay, look, I am really inordinately good at telling when celebrity couples are going to end. And I usually keep a notes app on my phone with dates, or I'll text a friend to timestamp my predictions to be like, this is ending, here we go. And so often, and I try not to post too much about it because it always seems gleeful because it's always like, I got it right, which is like, then people are like, you're an asshole. Like these people split up and it's sad for them. And
I have a gift.
It's also like you can tell because of their Instagrams and the way they respond. So I'm fascinated by celebrity breakups and celebrity gossip. And so I've always been a follower of celebrity gossip and news and everything. I just want to know everyone's little business because it's fun. It's entertaining. But that said, this summer has been wild. Like to start with, I guess this wasn't even this summer, but like you had Reese Witherspoon and that one seemed not to be rude, but kind of obvious because they weren't ever together or around.
Yeah, it was like her age, like an agent, like Jim Toth, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
And they had like a nice place in, I think, Montecito or one of those, like Santa Barbara, one of those nice places.
Yes. And then, so that one didn't seem shocking to me. I'd kind of been waiting for that, but I had like a question mark of like, have you gotten to the point in the marriage where you're like, it's so expensive for us to split up because we have this production company together that we're just going to kind of stay together, but whatever. But so she made the call. I was like, okay, here we go. And then some dominoes started falling, and you've got, again, like Caitlin Bristow, which that one didn't surprise me. I'm sorry to say. I have been watching that one, and their July 4th post really gave me hope that maybe they were still together, but they were. I knew this was coming. I knew, unfortunately, because I really like both of them. I think they're both such sweet people, and I hope that they just are happy. Like I genuinely, this again sounds so gleeful to be like, I knew it was coming.
They do seem like really nice people.
Yeah, they seem very sweet. And then there was another big one that I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And then there's, oh my God, why can't I think of her name? Kyle.
Well,
Richards.
Joe Manganiello and Sophia Vergara, Kyle Richards and Mauricio.
Okay, and
from
that
Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yes, and it's definitely Sophia Vergara. That was honestly a little surprising, but as soon as it came out, I was like, oh, it's because of kids. And then somebody was like, it's because of kids. And I was like, that makes sense. Like he wanted kids.
Well, it was her. Well, allegedly it was because of kids, and he's been sober for a long time, and allegedly she is, doesn't have a problem, but there was they put stuff out like TMZ and Daily Mail of that could have been a potential problem as well. Mm-hmm. Is that he, was not into her lifestyle potentially, which that was neither here nor there.
The one that did shock me, the one that I was like, oh my God, did not see this coming. And part of it is because of how they've been so private before. So it's like a lot harder to get the signs, is Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn. That one I was like, oh, okay. Wow.
Okay.
All
What
right.
surprised you about that? What surprised you about that? Because I also would love to touch on the little mini thing with Maddie Healy from the 1975
Oh, that was
that we
crazy.
never got full confirmation. But Joe Alwyn, they were writing like poems to each other. He wrote on her albums like Evermore and Folklore.
Well, they were together 6 years at a time in life. For a lot of people, when you're with somebody for that long, you end up marrying them. Like in your late 20s, early 30s, when you're with someone for 6 years, that's pretty common anyway. She seems to be somewhat traditional-ish and very romantic. And like both of them, first of all, they look alike. So that's a great sign for everyone. They're just like blonde, tall people. Amazing. They just had such she seemed to be so happy and settled in that relationship, and was writing songs about like, this is great and I want to be with you forever, and like, let's get married, and I've been with you for 3 summers and I want them all, like that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, okay, like here's this nice long relationship. And the thing I think that surprised me the most is usually there's like things that come out in newspapers, as if I'm reading newspapers, in magazines or online. Please, me cracking up in the Wall Street Journal every morning to find out.
Honey, the Wall Street Journal's here. Joe Alwyn's in it again. Yeah,
exactly. No, there's just things that like get written about celebrities usually that are like, oh, the distance has been hard on them, or they're like having some quotes where they'll like, somewhat recently, I remember Orlando Bloom talking about how difficult it is to be married to Katy Perry. And I was like, okay, all right, maybe not. Maybe you don't say that to the paper. Like, again, I don't know.
He's doing a press tour on the difficulties of being with Katy Perry. Amazing.
He was mentioning it a lot. He was like, marriage is hard work. And I was like, okay, tone it down. Like, just be. But so they weren't doing that because they're like a private, Joe and Taylor were such a private couple that it was like, there weren't the little like breadcrumb things of like, oh, they're selling their properties instead of buying properties. And he's in London and she's in LA and the distance has been hard, and all those little things that like.
And there was a Benoit thing that they even got secretly married.
Yes.
Like just, and like, it was like a secret ceremony. And they even like alluded to that it wasn't legal, but it was with friends and like under a tree potentially. I mean, it seemed like Hobbit, like it was like elfishly beautiful. It was very mystical.
Yes. And so then she had Matt Healy, which was like, that was a car crash. If I were her PR team, I would have called her every single morning, 5 a.m. wake up call. I'm not leaving you alone until you break up with this man. Her poor.
But isn't that what we do? Like, is that, now she's like the biggest star on the planet, but even if she wasn't, do a lot of people tend to like, well, I'm going to go for the bad boy now? Like, is that the attraction potentially for somebody like Taylor with a Maddie Healy?
I mean, maybe because you went from like literally like a gingerbread boy, like in a fairy tale, to like, I don't know, a cigarette that you found in the gutter. Like, what a jump. But I think the weird part of that is that he wasn't just, or not weird, the shameful part of that probably is that he wasn't just like a bad boy, but there's like, he's got multiple instances of being racist and like a kind of a piece of shit. Like, I am going to get canceled by people for this, but
no. We talked about that on the show many times, like all the stuff that he said. And by the way, you wouldn't like the music is really kind of pussy. Like in terms, like it's not, the 1975 isn't a hard, like it's not like this hard band, but his actual comments are so like like, I don't even care if he's trying to get attention from him, but it's just sometimes beyond the pale. Like, it's gross. And for somebody like Taylor to be with him, it truly was shocking to her fans, but also to non-fans, where I was like, this is wild.
It's also weird because he's like so try hard, which, not that she can't be try hard, but sometimes like it seems like in the past she's been with people who just kind of are what they are, whatever. Like, they're just, I don't know, like Joe Alwyn, he might be a little affected, but he's not like a try hard guy who's like trying to be cool. And man, is that guy trying so hard to be like edgy and weird, and like it's so transparently bad, and like I don't know, it's so unattractive from my perspective that I'm like, friend, as if Taylor Swift's my friend, what are we doing? Again, this is me being like, you need to come over to my house, I need to make you some pasta, and I need to tell you some things about your relationship.
I got worried because he started showing up to every one of her shows. Like I would see it like on like TikTok or something. He would be in the booth like singing along to every song, and I was like, dude, like chill out. Like I know you got a free ticket, but like you're showing up to every show. And then I got pissed that Phoebe Bridgers is all buddies with him because I like Phoebe Bridgers, and then Phoebe Bridgers like brought him out on stage and played with like and I was like, dude, how did like, and Phoebe Bridgers, she seems like she has a great head on her shoulders. She's called out people in the past for like idiotic things that they say, and then there's silence on Maddie Healy.
Well,
Sorry.
so here's the thing about Phoebe Bridgers, which I don't know that much about her, to be honest. Big picture, I have to say I've never like she's not been like a favorite of mine. I don't dislike her. I just like haven't put in the time to listen to her music, which I am sure is phenomenal. From what I've seen of it, it's really good music. So this is not a knock on her artistic ability at all. But I do think there's some like spicy timeline potential for her and Bo Burnham and his ex-partner, Lorena, and I'm never going to think of her name.
Oh, yeah, the director of the Jennifer Lopez film Hustlers. Yeah.
Scarfetta? I don't know. It's an Italian name, and now I'm embarrassed that I've let down a fellow Italian. But it was like he was always dating this like hot, sexy older woman, and I loved that for Bo Burnham. I was like, yes, please date a hot, sexy older woman. That's great. Wonderful justice for us all. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, Paul Mescal's gone. My hot older lady partner's gone. And now we're together. Timelines might be sizzling hot for that one. I don't know anything. Obviously, I don't know anything. I know nothing. But I was kind of like, now, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, what she's referring to, you guys, is so Phoebe Bridgers used to date the actor Paul Mescal that just was nominated for an Oscar last year. Amazing actor. They were engaged, and then all of a sudden, like we don't know what happened, but like all of a sudden there was like, oh, the engagement's off, and then all of a sudden Bo Burnham, who was in a like hooded jacket, and like really very trying to hide at things, was in the back of like these Phoebe Bridgers shows, and then she was in the back of like this. I forgot which comedian's show he was directing, and she was there, and then they like caught him holding hands. Like anyway, so it seems like they are together now. But you're right; it's a very weird thing because I think he was together with Lorena for like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, for a long time. Yes, I just again, who knows? I mean, also again, not my problem, not my business. But I love speculation, so
No, it's like it's one of those things when you're like, I'm on the Daily Mail at like 1 a.m, and I'm just like shaking my head like, no, Bo, no, Phoebe. Like, and I don't know either of them at all, but I put these people sometimes on pedestals as we do in pop culture. And then you realize, oh, all of these people are jackasses just like me. They're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. And they're also way younger than I am. So I guess they have to learn to make their mistakes. But it's wild because pop culture nowadays, it is now like a 24-hour news cycle like politics is that it's so different than somebody like Fleetwood Mac. Could you imagine if that was like TMZ was around back in those days?
Oh, Lord. Oh, good Lord. There would have been a contact high from the cocaine in the room, first of all, for all the reporters.
Yes.
But it's very different now. And I feel like again, this is such a cliche thing to even say, but like social media definitely makes us all feel like we've got even more of access to and potentially right for access to into people's lives. So I definitely understand. And should I ever meet any person that I've ever like gossiped about privately, I'm never going to like bring things up or be weird about it. And also just like, so I do feel a certain sense of like, there's a creepiness to the fact that I like care about these things.
I know.
I think it's a storytelling thing though in my mind, which is like unfair to them because they're like, I have to live through this. like actually not a fun story.
You're helping me with my narrative prose. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. To me, I'm like, this is a fascinating tale of intrigue. And they're like, that is my marriage. So yeah.
So that is interesting though. It's like, I always talk about the concept of growing up loving this stuff. I think there was like meant to feel some sort of shame about liking this kind of stuff, to be fascinated every day with like pop culture or tabloid stuff and like to really dig in there. And then you realize like there's really nothing to be ashamed about. It's like, is this weird, intense microcosm like on meth of actual people's lives? There's just like a celebrity lens on it. But that's why like I hate the Kardashians, but I love them at the same time because what an insane family to have billions and billions of dollars now, starting off doing tummy tea ads, but you still have men in your life that consistently treat you like shit, and Kris Jenner encourages you to stand behind them. Like, that to me is fascinating. That is like, wow. Like,
yes, no,
yeah, I mean,
I feel like also there's the factor of like, people have been talking about other people and gossiping about people for all of time. And whether they know somebody or don't know somebody, like you think that like everyone wasn't being like, oh no, the vicar in the new town 2 towns over is a little tart or whatever. Like, people were always gossiping. And, you know, gossip has a very real like use, which is very connective, but also potentially like good at outing people for like, that's a bad person. And like a good gossip network that can keep you of like, don't work with that guy, by the way, or like, if you do, watch out. So I'm like very pro gossip. I do also think that there's something unimaginable about having your life and your life choices dissected at that level, especially when you've got all this access to money and power that like the average person doesn't have. Like, the average person can't just leave their partner and move across the country with someone and go vacation in the Bahamas and be on a yacht and be flirting or whatever. Like, the average person, if you get divorced, it costs you, you know, $15,000 and it's financially ruinous. So like, that is such a different life than all of us live, that I think there's also an aspect of it that isn't even noticeable. Like, in some sense, divorce is its own like luxury item at this point in a lot of people's lives. You can't afford to live on your own, or you can't afford to, again, like move out or pay to go through litigation or whatever. So there is a very real factor of like, these people are living a life that is unimaginable on almost every level to us. So it is kind of fascinating to be like, what is it like to go home to your big kitchen with wide open doors to the ocean and then like bang a pop star? Like, I would love to find out.
No, I mean, like, did you get tickets to, I mean, speaking of like unimaginable, did you get tickets to any of the Eras Taylor Swift dates in Los Angeles? Were you just there this last 2 weeks?
I did. I got a text message randomly that was like, we're adding a date. And I thought it was fake because I was like, there's no way that I could just log in and this would work. And I somehow got tickets that I genuinely have no idea how that worked. I just believed a text message, which I don't think anyone should ever do, because someone can scam me so easily.
This is how my parents fuck their computers up every year. Like, they just believe text messages and emails.
I know. I really was like, I will say I did a little bit of due diligence and I didn't click on the link from my phone. I like Googled separately and was like, is this true? But I went to her concert, and then I also was, again, lucky enough to do the gauntlet and go to Renaissance. And so I've seen both this summer, which has been nuts.
Where did you see Renaissance? She hasn't come to LA yet.
She has not come to LA. I'm in a friend's wedding when she's in LA. So I went and visited family in St. Louis and then went up to Chicago to her show in Chicago because I'm insane. And I told everyone in my life that like, if Beyonce goes on tour again, I have to see her. And so I was like, I got to do it. So I bad financial decisions. But by the way, probably one of the best experiences of your life, right? Oh, amazing. Both shows were just so unbelievably good and so long and so much production. And I cannot believe somebody is doing this multiple nights a week. Like, Michael Jackson could never. Just I mean, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, you're right. No, wait. Okay, this is so I was like Travis Scott, like his new album came out and he did this like fucking show at the like in Italy last week where Kanye came out, and I was watching a clip of it and he's just like jumping up and down, going like like just jumping up and down in this ridiculous white outfit, which is fine, but he's just jumping up and down screaming, which is like, after like Astroworld, maybe like chill out a little bit. But then, like, you compare it to, like, Beyonce or Taylor Swift, everything is fucking, like, they're pros. They're hitting every mark. They're, like, everything. They're just, I mean, it's just so and legendary. And then you have this man, Travis Scott, just screaming. It's like, It's like, that's, like, oh, sorry.
The level that they put on, I mean, I really genuinely was joking earlier. Michael Jackson's obviously like the blueprint of how big and amazing a tour can be and how much production a tour could get. And he was obviously a phenomenal performer, which is like, again, part of the blueprint for this. But their concerts are so unbelievably produced and so well done. And even with that, like, again, I know both of them have a virtually unlimited budget. So like, yes, you can make a really great concert with an unlimited budget. but still you have to show up and do the concert for 3.5 hours or 2.5 hours every single night, which even the crowd at both shows occasionally would sit down, and I was like, this is hilarious that you guys are sitting down and the performer is like still going. You know what I mean? Like we're getting tired standing doing nothing. It was so funny. I mean, it just the unbelievable amount of work and effort that it takes to put on a concert ever, period. And then the amount that they're doing and how many shows they're both doing. And wow, unbelievable.
So, like, I went to Beyonce twice by myself. And the first time was just like for shits and giggles. And the second time was like, well, I gotta go. I mean, like, because it really was one of the best things I had ever seen. I was blown away. And I was like, I will see this person until she is not touring anymore. Like, I guess it's really, truly magical. And that's why it bumped me out. I couldn't get one of those pre-sale Taylor Swift things. And then I was like, you know what if I went on StubHub, like the lower level seats were like legitimately $9,000. Oh, and then the top, like the fifth level, the last row of the fifth level was like $800. And I was like, you know what? That's a bridge too far. Cause then I would be the creepy guy by himself, not screaming out the words. And they're like, what's that guy's deal? He's in the last row of the fifth center and he paid $900. Like, there's just like, I love her, but I couldn't do that. Like, it would have been much, I would have been okay being the weird guy by himself on the lower levels, you know?
Yeah. If you get really good tickets, you have to go. I as soon as I left, both concerts, I immediately was like, if I can ever see them again, I have to. And yeah. I think one thing, I mean, I was never a concerts person growing up. Like my first concert was Bob Dylan with my dad, and he doesn't believe it's in standing at events. So he made us sit in silence the entire time. So that was my first concert experience. And then I didn't see
I'm going to scare the shit out of you to see Bob Dylan as a kid.
I was like 14. That was my first concert or 15 something. And it was a very boring experience, I have to say. I'm so sorry to Bob Dylan, whom I love Bob Dylan, but man, that was not the best concert experience. And so then I waited for many, many years, and then I saw Beyonce actually, and that just kind of opened the box of like, oh my God, this is what a concert can be. Are you guys kidding? This is what everyone's been talking about. And then I saw after that, I saw not Taylor Swift. I'm sorry, I saw Fleetwood Mac, and that was when I was like, oh my God, if they ever go on tour again, I have to see them. It was one of the best shows, maybe the best concert I've ever been to, even though it wasn't high production value. They were just so, so, so good. And then the pandemic happened, so they stopped touring, of course. And then, of course, Christine McVie has died. And so now it's like, well, I got it in. If anything, it reinforced to me that I should like waste my money, quote unquote, for those three concerts.
Like, I don't have kids. Like, I mean, this is like, these are my kids. I'm going to go spend money doing this kind of stuff because that, I mean, like, I'd say I saw Fleetwood Mac at the Forum, before the pandemic, maybe like their tour before the one you saw. And I remember it was when Chrissy Miffy had come back to the band to tour with them. And it was so funny because at the end of the show, on like the encore, Stevie Nicks was like, I told Christy, you're not used to the road. You don't have it in you anymore. And she was like shit talking Christy McVie, right? She's like, I have to work to be up here. And it was like hysterical. But then I just saw Stevie Nicks. It was like a co-headlining tour with Billy Joel like a couple months ago. And I was thinking like, oh, Billy Joel is going to like totally win this night. And Stevie Nicks, hands down, like Billy Joel's amazing, but blew Billy Joel out of the water. And then she did the most touching tribute to Chrissy McVie and like all the photos of them. And it would like been the first time she had played since her passing. And you just remember, like, we grow, like, this is what I love about pop culture is that we grow up, like, these people are growing up, but we grow up with these people as well. And it was making me think of like Landslide, of how you can look at it, like singing that song as a young woman and singing that song now, and what that must mean of like the passage of time to somebody like her.
Wow. I can't even, I mean, yes. How do you even, and it's crazy to think about. And I thought about this at the Eras tour. And, but also, I mean, great example with Stevie Nicks is like, you're singing these songs about a person that now has not been in your life for a very long time. So like, this is a fascinating thing of how do you get that emotion back when you're like, we haven't been a couple for 40 years, like I don't even talk to that man anymore. I think it's fascinating. And then you have kind of the other hand with the Eras tour. So many of the songs that were in the set list were songs that were love songs about this person you just ended something with. And I was like, oh my God, how do you do that? That is incredible to be able to come out and sing like a love song to a person that you just ended a 6-year relationship with earlier this year. I mean, I would be crying. I cry about everything, so I would be crying. But I know
most of the audience is crying. All the audience is crying when she does these things.
Oh, absolutely. I cried then. I cried at the show. And I mean, I cry at everything, so not a great barometer, but I think most people at the show were crying. It was such a good show. I did also notice that in Beyonce's show, she took out the songs from Lemonade that were about Jay-Z, and the only songs that are left are the songs that are like, which are great, Formation and Freedom, that aren't directly about him cheating, allegedly or whatever. I guess it seems like not allegedly.
No, I think it's common knowledge at this point.
I think it's common knowledge, yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting of like, is there a talk before you do this big tour that's like, hey, can you not do the songs about me being
B, can we have a chat real quick? I would love it if you did not, because Lemonade is one of the best cheating albums ever. Like one of the best, like going through it, like somebody that has cheated on you, a love relationship. It really is. That's why it's groundbreaking. It's like the best concept album ever.
Oh my God. If that's not a top 5 album to you, I think that's a red flag. Like that album was perfect. I just think top to bottom, I'm so frustrated that it's so difficult to actually watch the visual album now. It's so difficult to get that anywhere and to watch it. But man, that album is absolutely flawless. My genuine only note for her concert was I was like, I wish there was more Lemonade in this because I love Renaissance, and I'm so glad she played so much of it. But I kept being like, oh, I want to hear like Hold Up, and I want to hear Sorry, and I want to hear all of, all night.
Yeah, Lemonade for me is like top to bottom, just in a perfect album. Like it really is. And Renaissance is great too, but like Lemonade, like there is those albums that speak to you at like a certain time and place in your life. So it's like, yeah, you're always going to like want that experience. But I was thinking about this and thinking about like these, like Taylor and Beyonce sharing these like really personal things. And then not to bring it back to like Bachelor and Bachelorette couples, they go out and make their Instagram statement. And then I was reading the TMZ article about Caitlyn and Jason, and Caitlyn's like, I don't know, maybe, who knows what's down the line? We don't know. We're sharing our dogs. And it's like, I was thinking about it's like they don't have these songs to purge. They don't have, it's like they have Instagram posts. They have sponsored content. And like, how do you get out? Like, because we're normal people, but we don't have to, if we break up or get into relationships, we don't have to explain those to the public. Like you may choose to write about it, but we don't have to do that. And we look to them because they made she made her bones off of The Bachelorette. She made her bones on these shows about falling in love.
Yeah, I think I definitely don't envy having to explain a breakup to a general public. And especially like, I think a lot about the fact of like, even if it's a somewhat amicable, good breakup-ish, if there's such a thing, which it seems kind of like for Jason and Caitlyn, and it's at least like seems from the outside very amicable and friendly. I think it's also still like heartbreaking to have to put stuff out there in general and feel like you need to have to explain yourself. But then to have so many people in the replies being like, oh my God, I'm so heartbroken. I'm so sad. I loved you too. Bitch, I loved us too. I'm the person in the relationship. Like I would be so frustrated with that. Like, even though it's like a totally in good faith thing, like it's totally like intended to be a sweet thing, but how frustrating to hear people be like, I was rooting for you guys and feel like, okay, I was too. I literally am in it. Like I was in the situation. It's my relationship.
I take usually every celebrity couple that breaks up and I'll do the same meme post of Camelot Has Fallen, because that, like that was like the JFK, Jackie, like there was this kind of thing of like this magical relationship or something. But it is interesting nowadays with these relationships is you do see these people take it so personal. Like it is so like our pop culture is so personal to us. And now we have these shows based around love. And like you watch The Bachelor and Bachelorette, do you believe in this day and age, 2023, that anybody is genuinely going on at the age of 23 years old to find their life partner on any of these shows?
I think it's okay. So there's a couple things I think about this, I guess. One, every 23-year-old, every single one is the biggest dipshit imaginable. All of us are. Like 23, every single 23-year-old on earth is tied for being the biggest dipshit. So on the one hand, not a great time to expose yourself to the public. Like it's hard. And obviously
You're learning.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like there's pieces of that in my own life on very, very minor levels where I learned things publicly that I wish I could have somehow not learned publicly by posting every single thought I ever had on Twitter or in a book or whatever. So on some hand, I have like genuine belief that you can go on a show and have great intentions and be somebody who genuinely thinks like maybe this is a fun time, or maybe I find someone great, or maybe I meet somebody. And I think you can believe that genuinely. I just think there's so little of life that's been lived by 23. And people told me that at 23 and I believed them, but I also didn't understand them. So like I believed it when people talked to me about writing a book or whatever I was trying to do. And they would be like, but you're so young for this. And not in like they weren't like, wow, that's so cool. And they were like, no, you're too inexperienced to do this. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I genuinely think that like life is going to unfold a lot. That said, I think it's part of the experience of life is doing those things at 23. Like, I don't think you can skip over the steps of your life that are, why don't I take a big crazy risk? And maybe it is public and I fail publicly, or I get my heart broken, or I expose too much, or I look like an asshole on TV. Again, that last one's probably pretty niche, but I feel like there's something to be said for like experience. The only way through being a 20 something and being an idiot is through it. Like there's no way out. You have to do it. So do I think people are genuine? Yes. I think there's a lot of people that go on that show that are genuine. And or at least are like curious about it, which is, I think, fair to be like, hey, probably nothing, but like if I have a good time, I meet somebody cool. On the other hand, I watched the show with somebody. One of my best friends is a reality TV producer and editor.
Oh my God.
And he's worked on a ton of shows. And he's worked very closely with people that worked on The Bachelor. Like he's worked on a million shows that are reality TV shows. And so he knows a lot of like the secrets and the tricks. And so occasionally he'll be sitting with us and he'll be like, yeah, the producers changed that. And I'll be like, Kevin, no, they did not. That is real. That is real life. We are watching real life. We're watching a documentary and it is unfolding.
That's what I want. I need to believe all this is real. I hate when I hear about Frankenstein editing, and I hate when I hear about like in fact, I feel like I'm not a political person, but that should be a law. Like I feel like you should get fined if you lie to us point blank.
I agree. And I also like, I can deal with if they do a creative cut for the like teaser for the next week where like the voice comes over a scene that's a different scene. I can deal with that because it's like, all right, you made it spicy. I get it, whatever. But on my real TV day, you cannot mess with me. I am watching, again, a real documentary.
Yes.
So to me, I like the bubble and I like believing in it. And I like suspending my disbelief and being like, yes, these beautiful personal trainers really do want to find love. On the other hand, it gets harder every year as I get older to watch 20-somethings do stuff. I'm like, no, because you're still on your parents' insurance. So no, I'm not going to allow that.
It was so saccharine when I had to stop watching The Real World, when I was like, I can only watch so many 20-year-olds drink vodka Red Bull anymore. Like once I stopped drinking vodka Red Bull, I couldn't go there anymore, and it made me so sad because I wanted to. But it was like, but also The Bachelor, like, you're living in this bubble where everybody has abs, and you're like, well, that's not. Well, are you going to watch The Golden Bachelor? Which The Golden Bachelor comes out in like a month or so, or a month or two, and it's a guy in his 60s looking for love. Are you going to watch this?
So no one's going to believe this other than the people that I incessantly talked about. And that's fine. And it sounds horrible. So it's like an annoying sentence alert. But years ago, I was like, this is what they should do, is make an old Bachelor with old people. It would be so cute. Everyone loves old people. So I genuinely, with the guy that the producer that I'm friends with, he was like, let's put together a pitch deck kind of thing for this. And so we never did it. We never did this. So it's not like I'm saying someone stole my idea. I was just like, this is a thing I've always wanted to do. And he's like, if you are serious about it, you should put together a couple reality show ideas and like, here's what you should do. And I never did anything with it. And then they announced it. And so I am thrilled. I hope it's good. I do love old people. This guy seems like, I'm going off very little information, but he seems like an airline pilot from Florida, which is not really what I was thinking of when I thought of an old person. I was thinking of like a little sweetheart, and he has kind of like horny guy vibes, which is not exactly.
Yeah, like he does look like a hornier older man.
Yeah, and I was like not thinking of dirty, horny old man when I was thinking of my show. My show was like more like, oh my God, my sweeties are on the TV this week. How great.
You wanted like a cute little like version of like that movie Cocoon where they all like dived into the pool, and that's a old movie. But this guy looks like if And Just Like That stopped right now, and then 10 years from now they pick up filming again, somebody that would potentially date Carrie.
Yes. I wanted like the tone to be very similar to Great British Bake Off, where it's like, yay, all my great sweeties are together.
You wanted older handicapped people. By the way, I totally understand what you're saying, but that's hysterical because this seems like they still are trying to be sexy, and that's what I want. Like, I want to see the older women now. The older women compete, or what if they're all in their 30s or something?
They're going to be, and that's my concern. Is I was like, this is kind of already. I mean, I think they've like put out publicly what his age range was, because there was an article that I saw that was like, here's what the Golden Bachelor says his age range was. And I didn't click because I was like, this is going to piss me off, and I can tell it's going to piss me off. So I just need to find out later. Like, I'm kicking the can down the road because I feel like his age range is going to start in like the 40s, which is fine. 40-year-old women are fucking amazing, but he's in his 60s. And I was like, what I was looking for with my own brilliant idea of a show was like, I want everyone in their 60s. I want everyone to be like, I am on the tail end of menopause and life is rough and my kids don't call me. I wanted that, you know?
It will be interesting to see if, like, you know, like even no matter what, like once you get into your 30s and onwards, you start picking up things from your past relationship that you're like, that you just move through life with it. You move through life a little slower, a little like damaged or something. And that's the kind of like, that's what I'm hoping, is that this guy is potentially damaged and he like short circuits on the 4th episode because he's reminded of his ex, or like one of these ladies is like, oh, he's doing it again. Like, it reminds me of this man from like Richard from the 80s.
I do think a lot of the current show and a lot of reality TV in general hinges on, or a lot of dating reality TV hinges on the fact that young women are often easily exploitable, and like it's easy to treat them poorly on screen, and it's easy to make them put up with situations that maybe not easy, but people frequently try to make them put up with situations that no one should put up with. And so I wonder, and I really do wonder, does that change with the casting of older women who, because in my mind, again, there's like a woman named Ruth who's like, okay, shut the fuck up. That's my like dream, is a woman named Ruth yelling at this man and being like, you're an asshole, shut up. And I don't think that's going to happen because of the way they're going to cast it. They're going to cast it with like women that are like renting boats every weekend on a lake in Utah or something. Like,
then imagine the family meetups when they have to meet.
Oh my God.
The Golden Bachelor has to meet the dads that are the same age as him.
Yes. So I'm very fascinated by this. Of course I will be watching. At least the first season, I always am like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. And then of course I'm in. Are you kidding? Of course I'm in.
Yeah, me too. Like, and I've been pulled out of the Bachelor franchise over the last couple of seasons just because I felt I was just getting such repetition. And I started getting really worried about having to take care of these people on social media for the rest of our lives. Like, we have to buy their products for the rest. Like, we're now, like, every new Bachelor franchise is like 30 new influencers put out into the wild. And I feel like that's too much pressure on us, the audience.
Yes, it is. It very much is. And then them bringing people from other seasons to Paradise, to whatever, which I don't watch Bachelor in Paradise. I've heard it's better.
It's actually pretty good. It's actually, it can get kind of good with the minutia between the past relationships.
I do think it also is interesting to have the power dynamic not be one person versus a group of people that it wants to all date the one person. So I do think that's fascinating. It's mostly, I feel like, because I've often been traveling or something when it starts, and I've kind of missed some episodes, and I'm such a completionist that I can't. I have to see every episode. So I'm not ruling out Bachelor in Paradise, and everyone I know is like, you have to watch, you're going to love it, you have to watch. So I'm sure I'll start soon. I'm sure there's no way I don't.
Bachelor Nation eventually needs to secede from the union. I feel like they can have their own like island somewhere and just be populated with Bachelor contestants, and they're going to be great. 2 last things before I let you go. You've spent so much time with us. Thank you so much for making this so easy for me. is that are you working on a second book? Because when I got finished with that, I know you have so many writing things and stuff, but I just loved your voice so much. And I know you do all of these articles and stuff like that, but I loved your long form essays and stuff like that. Is there a second one in the works?
There is a second book, but it's going to be a fiction book, I believe, if I finish it and give it to my agent soon, which I'm supposed to be doing. So there is supposed to be another book, and hopefully many more after that. Again, dependent on Adderall shortages in this country and, and my own willpower. But yes, so I love writing books, and it really has been a joy. So there will be more.
Okay, perfect. And then lastly, what are you watching recently? It doesn't have to be reality. It can be scripted, movies, anything.
Oh man, the last thing that I remember thinking, oh my God, this was so good, was Jury Duty. I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. I was so sad to have it end because I felt just bereft. And then I would say I also watched this. I've been trying to practice my Italian. This is a really nerdy answer. I've been trying to practice Italian, so I've been watching a lot of Italian shows on Netflix, and I watched a good true crime show that has it's half English, half Italian about a girl in the Vatican that was killed in the 70s, I want to say. So that was very good. I love true crime. Again,
is it called Girl in the Vatican?
I think it's called something like Vatican Girl or something. Like, it is such a literal title. Like, you wouldn't believe. Girl. Yeah, seriously, as all true crime is. They'll be like, the woman who lived at Cedar Point. And you're like, all right, awesome, got it. Understood. So yeah, I honestly, I've been just Bachelor has been the big show in our house.
So why don't you delve into Bravo with it? Like, is there a moral dilemma that you're like, I can't go that far?
No, it's not that at all. I think I started Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I liked. And I watched for work this is going to sound weird, but for work, I watched some Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which was very fascinating. I don't dislike them at all. It's more again, because I'm such a completionist, I cannot stand starting in the middle. I wanted to start Vanderpump Rules this year because of the cheating situation. And I actually happen to know somebody who's friends with, or maybe not friends is a very loose word, but knows Raquel very well and had known about the affair for months before the public did. And she was like, this has been so weird and hard. She knew about the affair before Ariana did.
Than anybody, yes.
So she was, and so I know this person, and she was like, it's been so weird and so hard to I keep this inside when I knew this was coming someday. I knew something would happen. So that, and I'm living in LA, I kind of know people who know them or have partied with them or are friends with them or, you know.
Yeah.
So there's just there's kind of loose connections to that show that are fascinating. And I've wanted to try to watch it, but it seems so overwhelming. It seems like a huge commitment.
Just do 2 episodes of the first season on Peacock. It's super easy. I swear to God, it'll be easy. It'll be fun. Just try it. It'll be, anyways. Guys, the book this is exhausting. I'm telling you, check this book out. It really, I found it at the perfect time, and I know it's going to mean even more to you. But also check out our columns in GQ, Bustle. Go follow her on Twitter, Instagram. I'm going to put all those tags up. Is there anything else that you're doing that we need to know about?
No, that is kind of everything. You can find me online talking nonstop, basically. So.
That's what I wanted. I kind of forget. Hopefully you'll come on next time because I want to know if anybody was offended by your book. And I have so many other. Maybe you'll come on for true crime or something. But please consider coming back because thank you so much.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you for having me.